Formal hello, everyone, and welcome. My name is Aris Sharon. I'm faculty of graphic design at St. John's University, and I'm going to be kind of overseeing the more formal part of this presentation. So this is a presentation for BFA students in the Department of Art and Design. We have illustration, fine art, photography, and graphic design. And so if you're watching this either remotely or if you're coming in person at this point, you might want to just make sure that that's one of the areas you're interested in, either as a minor or as a major. You're in the right place. If not, this might not be the session for you. We'll start with first is a presentation by faculty Elizabeth Luna, who is our incoming chair of the Department of Art and Design. We're very happy to have her taking that on in the fall. For all of you who will be students in the fall, she will be the chairperson, and she's going to just tell us a little bit about the program. So Liz, you want to go ahead and do that?
Yep. So in order to do this, I am going to share my screen.
Great.
You guys
we see it.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Okay. All right. Okay. So this is just a brief introduction to the Department of Art and Design at St. John's University. These are some images of students showing work at a conference and working in the classroom. So our department offers BFA degrees in graphic design, illustration, fine art, and photography, and an MA degree in museum administration. And all of our degrees are NASAT accredited. So I'm going to give a short explanation of each of the BFA programs with a few visual examples. Starting with fine art. Fine art students gain the experience and intellectual preparation to develop their individual artistic identities. Through their coursework in painting, drawing, printmaking, installation, video, and mixed media, students explore diverse contemporary artistic strategies and learn to translate ideas into visual expression using a variety of media. After graduating, fine art students go on to be professional artists, curators, gallerists, and educators. These are some examples of student work. And this is a fine art student with her work at her senior thesis show. Next up is illustration. The illustration curriculum provides opportunities for students to cultivate their individual vision with coursework emphasizing traditional drawing and painting skills and the application of the latest digital media and technologies. Students learn conceptual skills, professional practices, and narrative storytelling and techniques. These techniques are used to produce illustrations suitable for advertising, publishing, editorial, and the service, gaming, and entertainment industries. These are some examples of student work, both digital and analog. And this is an illustration student with her senior thesis work at the thesis show. That brings us to graphic design. The graphic design curriculum is focused on teaching students to be articulate and fluent with visual language and helps them develop the skills to create meaningful visual messages. The program stresses critical, creative, and intellectual thinking and awareness of individual, social, and cultural issues. Students use techniques and concepts learned in class to produce design solutions suitable for advertising, branding, publishing, magazine design, interactive web and mobile designs, and motion graphics. These are some examples of graphic design outputs. So this is an example of poster design, web design, app design, editorial publication, and magazine design. And last but not least is photography. Students in the photography program develop field-specific critical thinking and communication skills necessary to analyze, discuss, and critique photographic images, considering technical, ethical, and conceptual applications and values. Affiliated with the International Center of Photography, ICP, in New York City, our BFA in photography offers the technical and conceptual training necessary for students to master studio, lighting, documentary, analog, and digital techniques while developing critical and creative solutions to their own individual ideas. This is a picture of the actual ICP location, some student photography work, a image of photography in a design context, and one of our photo students at his senior thesis show. So we also have a variety of student events and exhibitions. This is a student art history field trip with Dr. Ganzel. This is a trip to the public library, the New York Public Library. St. John's University also has an art gallery on campus, the Yay Art Gallery. And this is an image of the retrospective of Brazilian graphic designer Felipe Taborda. We have study abroad programs all over the world, both semester-long programs and shorter-term programs. These are some images of summer sessions in Italy and a winter break also in southern Italy. There are abundant service learning opportunities. This is Professor Laudo with his class teaching the residents of the nearby Chapin Nursing Home doing drawing. And you may ask who and where are our alumni. We have alumni at Facebook, Marvel Comics, Penguin Random House, a lot of different cable and broadcast networks, Apple. Some have actually also gone into art education, and the list goes on and on. And with that, we thank you, and I can exit and turn back around the screen.
Great. Thanks, Liz. I am actually going to be next up, and it's a 2-minute quick video showing the facilities. Normally for our accepted students, one of the big things with art and design is that we love to bring you to campus and tour you around our facilities. Obviously, when things shut down, that changed because we can't have you all on campus coming to visit. And it also changed because we didn't have a video sort of already made. What we did was we had a video just that a faculty took on their phone. And so just keep in mind that normally there'd be a lot of students in these rooms, and it would be much more lively than what you're seeing here. But this is the best we can do in with our stay-at-home orders. So I'll share that video right now. Hello and welcome. My name is Eris Sharon, and I'll be your guide on this mini studio tour of the Department of Art and Design's facilities in St. John's Hall. We took this video when the space was empty, but normally it's full of students working on different projects. The first room we're coming to is the Print Center, and here you'll see large-scale scanners, large format inkjet printers, and laser printers, where students can spend time printing their projects with keycard access so they can come after hours. This next room is the thesis studio, and in the spring when the seniors take their thesis class, they will get individual space here so that they can spend time working on large and small projects. Here in the hallway we have lockers because we know students have lots of materials that they want to keep. Next, we're entering Mes B. It's a specialized classroom for jewelry and 3D design. And in the fall, sometimes it also has some foundations classes in it, so freshmen might spend time here. Across the hall here, we have a similar classroom, but without the specialized equipment. One thing is all of these classrooms do have large screens where students project digital work or cast digital work from their laptops or even from their phones. And one of our favorite rooms is our VR/AR room, where students are able to use green screen technology to create projects in the virtual and augmented spaces. Going down the hall here, we have some large tablets for illustration students to work on, and you'll see some student projects here. Finally, we're in the makerspace, and we have a variety of different 3D printers. We have a laser cutter here and scanner, and this is really a lab for those other classrooms. So coming back out, you'll see that we're back where we started, and I hope you've enjoyed this tour today. Thanks. So now comes kind of the part of the event that I'm most excited about, and that's sort of from hearing from faculty, which is something that all of you would get to do if you were able to come to our Queens campus. If you join later, you haven't heard me say that this time of year in May is one of the most beautiful times of campus, beautiful that the campus looks, the beautiful times of year for our campus at Queens. So we're missing you in Queens, but I know that if I was a student, I would be really interested to hear what the faculty were up to and just some ways that they have been working at St. John's with students in the past. And we're really going to start our conversation by thinking about the core values of St. John's. So if you've been on the website and you are already an accepted student, you know that we are Catholic, we're metropolitan, we're global, and we're Vincentian. And so I thought that we'd start today by using those ideas to frame the department and learn a little bit more about what each of the areas in the department are doing. So we're going to start with metropolitan because, hey, we're in New York. And I think that that's really meaningful to the institution in general, but it's really more meaningful to the Department of Fine Arts maybe than some other majors. And that is because for artists, being in New York, it's a pretty big deal. It's very vibrant. There's tons of museums. So we have a really close relationship to New York. So I'm going to talk first to Liz. I'm going to ask Liz, you do this thing called motion graphics. Can you just briefly tell us what you teach and kind of about the industry of design and broadcast design in New York and what that means for students?
I would say that we are super lucky to be teaching design in New York City because New York City has a really thriving, diverse design community. So the good things about this are that it enables students to take advantage of great lectures and events, and they can meet working designers. But it also means that there are a lot of internship opportunities and ways that they can experience different aspects of the discipline. Students have also had great success finding jobs in the industry because they are in New York where there's a lot of opportunities. And we also have a great alumni network. So what is motion graphics? When I'm not teaching design, I animate and design motion graphics, which are basically graphic design in motion. So it's typography, graphic images, photography, all linked together and moving together in unison. And it's something that you see everywhere now, from television to YouTube to Instagram, and it's a skill that's in great demand.
So like really specifically, if I'm watching an HBO show and in between the two shows, there's like some crazy thing with type and image and audio all kind of moving together as a promo. That's motion graphics, am I right?
That's motion graphics.
Okay, yeah, and I think we're really lucky to be in New York because there's definitely a ton of work in that area, as well as obviously in the other areas of design. Joe, you're a painter and illustrator with gallery representation both in this city and elsewhere. What do you think it means to study and be a professional artist in this city?
Oh, I got to tell you, artists for generations have been coming to New York City because it really represents the old world and the new world coming together. And it's really this interesting clash of those two things that draw everyone there. And it makes for this really exciting environment for pretty much every type of artist, everything from architectural to design to illustration to fine art. And you have access to the greatest museum, of some of the greatest museums in the world right now. And not only that, I think I could probably safely say that as if you're interested in portraiture, figurative art, realism, representational art, and people, St. John's, I think, represents one of the most diverse campuses in the history of the world. So it is really maybe to varying degrees socially, a melting pot of a lot of different influences that make it just such an exciting, vibrant place to study.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. And I see some like things that look like they might be art supplies and drawings in the background there.
It's a mess back there. I'm on my iMac, so I can't move too much. So you're looking at it. But
that means you're not just an artist at school, right? You're doing this stuff every day.
That's true. No, I do occasionally still do illustration, but my career as a fine artist has kind of taken off, and I'm represented by 5 or 6 galleries in the U.S. and I have a gallery in New York City down on West Broadway called Hugo Gallery. And that keeps me pretty busy. You have to continually maintain fresh work for all these outlets, and it keeps me busy, and I'm pretty happy doing that.
Awesome. I mean, I think that's one of the really amazing things about not just being in New York, but going to school in New York is that your professors at St. John's, like they're out doing the things that they love professionally every day, and splitting their time between being educators and being professional artists, designers, photographers, illustrators, etc.
I think that's
Go
I
ahead.
think that's a really important point, Harrison, for any students that are looking at an art department and to go there. It's really important that you research your faculty. You know, if you're going to accounting, I don't think it matters what your accounting teacher does, but it's a big part of the frame of reference your faculty is coming from by seeing what type of work they do. And that's an ancient tradition in the arts that people study under specific people, but it's important for young artists to see what their faculty do and hold them accountable that they need to back up what they say in the classroom with action. So that's an interesting point.
That's great. Alex, I have a two-part question for you. First of all, you're an alumni of St. John's, so can you just say a couple words about why you wanted to stay with the St. John's community and continue to be part of it in your career after graduation? And then can you just maybe give us a taste of a couple of the places that you traveled and, worked as a professional photographer and doing documentary work in the last year or so?
Sure. Well, I guess to answer the first question, uh, I guess a couple of things attracted me to St. John's as a student and have kept me there. One is my continuing interest in learning, research, and the possibility of tapping into several of the different fields of studies. And St. John's, St. John's is a large liberal arts university. And as an artist and photographer, my work is informed and also addresses several of these other fields. Also, the university mission and values of social concern and service, those are very important to me. And my main outlets for action in respect to those they tend to be the classroom and my research work, because those are the things that, in a way, have always attracted me. Like I said, as a student, and have even today as a faculty, as a teacher, keep me very interested and active within the campus community. My professional artwork and photographic work addresses a range of topics, as I said, from environmental issues, politics, migration, geography, psychology, and religion, all areas in which I've always been interested in. It's just that you cannot really get a degree on all of those different things, and in a way, um, it was by becoming an artist, by going into the Department of Art and Design, that I found that I didn't have to give up none of those, and I can address them, in a creative and visual way with what I do. Recently, my work has taken me through my personal projects and collaboration with other institutions to different places. Most recently, I guess this past year or so, I was in Australia, in Haiti and the Dominican Republic, Sweden, and a few places in Central Africa, Nigeria, Chad, Kenya, Mali. Most recently, however, I haven't been more than 2 miles away from home. So let's see when that's going to change.
Sure, but I'm sure you're itching to get back out and do some of that travel because it is so integral to the creative work that you do.
Yeah, yeah, sure. One thing I was thinking, talking to someone the other day, is I feel that I tend to be most productive when I put myself in a new place, in a new environment. Sensory overload and just become hungry and looking at everything. So it helps me.
Cool. Great. Claudia is a representative from Fine Arts. So I have a question for you. I'm really interested, sort of going back to this idea of St. John's being metropolitan, how the city kind of fosters you as a creative individual, and then just how you help students sort of mirror that I know as professional artists and designers who live here and are from here, that's pretty natural for us, but somebody coming from Illinois or somebody coming from California who's new to the city might not know how to make those connections. So can you sort of talk about that in your own work and then how you help students do that engagement as well?
Sure. Well, one of the things that is, I think it's already been touched on, but is, again, important to, I think, reemphasize is just the fact that, New York has such a vibrant and exciting population of artists working in so many different ways. And so I think that that in itself allows for people from a variety of different sort of places and points of interest to kind of find their place, because there isn't just silos. It's sort of, there's a really wonderful variety of artists who are working, and so a lot of artists work in community, even though we may be working in our studio doing our own projects. But when you're actually finished working, you're showing your work, or you're working in a residency, or there's some kind of gallery or some kind of communal aspect to it. And so that is a really wonderful resource for artists, students, and the like to kind of come together and find a way to sort of work together and expand opportunity. So what I try to do, both in my teaching as well as in my own practice, is to find ways to connect people together in conversation and find a way to make work relevant, so that for example, in some of my studio classes that I teach, we'll be doing projects, and then the projects kind of can go out into the larger world and find a place for them and find people to connect to them. So if, for example, we go and we visit, in my printmaking class, we go and we visit a printmaking studio, there may be lots of possibilities for the students then to get an internship, or to then develop a relationship with the director or with the other group of artists who are there, and then be able to go in and maybe work as an apprentice, or just find a way, to connect with those people and then get their foot in the door, so that, if they want to be, practicing artists who are showing, or if they want to be technical artists, whatever the case might be, that there's an opportunity for them to really find the sort of proper outlet for what it is that they're interested in.
That's great. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
I wanted to hear from Yasmin. She's the newest member of the faculty. Well, she's our studio manager, keeping us all being able to do what we want to do every day, and keeping the students be able to work in our fantastic studios on when we're able to be in our studios. Mm-hmm. But she's a relative newcomer to New York, so I just thought I'd ask Yasmin, what do you like? Why New York? And about coming to this city that is so much about the arts?
There is so many resources and so many opportunities, in New York, and I think the course Discover New York kind of explains that. We have this course, the mandatory course, Discover New York, that students have to take, and that kind of help them, introduce all the resources to them. It's just, there's so much, it can be overwhelming in a good way. When I want to, after work, whenever I wanted to go back to home, I was always looking for a way to extend my, my way to home, just to see more things.
Yeah, there's never a lack of things to do, right? I mean, I think we can all say that, we'll hear from each other about a new museum exhibition or gallery opening, and even if you've been to 5 that month, you can still miss some, because this city just is so inundated with art.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I want to move on to the idea of St. John's being global. I'm sure you've checked out the website and know that we have campuses outside of New York City, in Rome, in Paris, in Ireland, and there's also the Discover the World program. So we do really encourage students to learn about themselves as artists and designers beyond the confines of the Queen's campus and to take advantage of some of those study abroad opportunities. Joe, you've done study abroad with students in the summer, but just generally, we also have a lot of students now who do a semester abroad. What does it mean, do you think, for an illustration student? Like, what's the benefit of spending a semester or a chunk of the summer abroad?
Well, I would say this probably for any art student of any discipline that goes abroad. I mean, my experience is that you find out very quickly your connection to the history of art. And, you may not, they say that there's this culture shock when you go over there, but actually the shock is when you come back and you realize we don't really have a culture. So you really find yourself connected to the entire history of art when you go and study abroad, and you have access to these ancient places like Rome, whose cities that are so old that they begin with rumors. One of the interesting things about studying in New York is the entire history of the United States is written down. You can read it all. You go back in history into the old world, and that's a whole different ballgame. And I think that, and having said that as well, those students that have gone abroad and that's been a part of their resume, that has made them eligible for job opportunities that other students wouldn't have access to. Studying abroad is a major component of your education. And educators, we found, really look at that very significantly because it does give you a perspective on global thinking that you wouldn't otherwise have if you never left your environment. So it's an essential part of your education, I think. And if you have that, or at least if you're looking into a school that does have that, that's got to be a major consideration.
Fantastic. Right. I can say that just experientially, one of my favorite things is being with students and having be perfectly permissible to, in July when it's really hot in Rome or southern Italy, to have 2 or maybe even 3 gelatos in a day. So
Really
that's one of the things that just stands out to me as something that students, I don't think students would ever do that here, but we just, we were sort of in the moment.
Can I add something?
Sure. Yeah. Alex.
Just in not to forget in terms of the global studies is that we have very organized semester-long programs in Europe that includes Italy, France, and Ireland with campuses that we have there. But even aside from those, there's a variety of other programs that might take students to every corners of the world. There are programs, for example, faculty-led programs to Vietnam. There's a new program, semester-long, starting hopefully next semester or next fall in Costa Rica, in Central America. Aside from several summer sessions and winter session programs that take students to South America, to places like Argentina, and even the Caribbean to Cuba, and other parts of Europe as well. So the global studies offering at St. John's is pretty wide and varied.
Thanks for reminding us. It's, that there's a lot of options. It's very robust. I think full-time faculty often end up in the summer programs, but I think a lot of our students actually take advantage of some of the semester programs that are much more varied than the ones that we're able to participate in the summer. And that's because most of the full-time faculty were teaching on the Queen's campus. So we're more limited than the students are. So the world is really your oyster if you're a student at St. John's in terms of. Does somebody, one of the students, the current students who are joining us, just want to spend a moment and tell us something about your experience at St. John's or in your particular program? I think we have representation from graphic design and photography today. Something that you think an incoming student would need to know, want to know, or just more generally, your a little bit of a take on your experience here at St. John's.
I'll go. I did the study abroad program. I did Global Passport.
Can you just introduce yourself and tell us your major and your year? Yeah,
so
thanks.
My name's Sarah. I'm a photo major and I'm a sophomore, and I went through the application process for ICP. If you have questions about ICP, Maddie's your girl to ask. But I did the Global Passport program and loved it. So I went for a week. I finished my history core class, but I had also taken art history that same semester. So we were going to all these different art galleries, and I'm emailing Dr. Gansell going, I saw this today and we learned it. And I saw this today and we learned that. And it's a really cool experience when you go and you see the actual artwork in person. So I think it's awesome that we have a campus, multiple campuses around the globe.
That's wonderful. It's great to hear how you were able to connect your previous art history experience with then going abroad and actually be like, oh, that thing I saw in a book now or on a slide, I now can see in person. Cool. Somebody else, another of our current students?
I'll go. So I'm
Sure.
Holly. I'm a junior and I'm a graphic design major. And I think one of the most like interesting things about our program and just like the things that I have found most unique about it is that in high school, when you're in an art class, you're doing work the whole time and your teacher's just kind of like coming over and like looking over your shoulder and maybe giving you a little bit of a correction and then you kind of just keep going. But like with our program, it's really structured where like class time is where you help each other and critique each other. So pretty much you come in with the work that you've done and you kind of put it up on the board, or you present it in some way and you really get to talk about like your intentions and how you kind of went about developing it in a certain way. And you really get to hear feedback from your peers. And it's really this amazing like collaboration kind of where you kind of all work together to just kind of make your work as best as possible. And I think that's such a great thing. And I think you really start to build some amazing bonds with your class because you just get to know them and they get to know you. And it's really just amazing to see everyone's different styles kind of develop and just change into something that's like just makes some really great work.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So I think I heard that there's somebody who is going to ICP or has been to ICP. Is that right? Do we want to hear?
Yes. I think I'm the last student representative here anyway, but my name is Madeline. I'm a junior photography major, so I'm currently in ICP. And what I can say about St. John's, Holly kind of touched on this, where it's like our program, it's small in comparison to maybe like our pharmacy major, but I think that's like very beneficial because you have the space to get along, to learn about your peers, and then also your professors as well. You have that intimate space where your art and your creativity and your thought process, they all get the same amount of attention as someone else, which you might not necessarily get from art schools, like larger ones, or other majors essentially. And I think what's important is that right now, like we are a growing program. Like just recently, like the studio tour we showed earlier, it was recently renovated. So we are on the rise basically of creating like a very amazing program. I mean, it is now, but yeah, how do I say this? I just had coffee, so my mind is like totally running. But I don't know, basically like despite us being a liberal arts school, we take our art program very seriously. Yasmin, she is very passionate about our studio and our programs. So I think joining the school now is like a prime time as an artist because you get an all-around great education with liberal arts and then a great education within fine arts as well.
Wonderful. I mean, I couldn't have said it better myself. I think I might let we've heard from all of the students on the call, the current students, is that correct?
Yeah, I think that's everybody.
That's everybody. Yeah. So I think Maddie did a great job of kind of summing that up. And we've been on for almost an hour in the formal part. So I think that what we're going to do now is we're going to transition for those of you who are in the live event. We'll transition into the informal part, just see if any of the students have some informal questions. And for those faculty who joined, I want to thank all of you. I think you did a great job of talking about the program and talking about your own research interests. And if what I've done right now is for all of you who've joined, all the faculty and the students who've joined the call, for the recorded session, I've put everybody on the grid so that we can see all of you. And so I thought the faculty could just do a nice wave goodbye and hope that we see all of you who are tuning in both for the live session and the recorded session. We hope to see you in the fall. And I hope you're able to make friends with the current students who you've heard today. For those of you who are joining in at the recorded session, we'll also have a slide at the end if you have questions and want to connect with faculty or current students for additional questions, maybe in a one-on-one situation. We'll put that information in a slide at the end. For those of you who are on the live call, if you want to connect with faculty, you can also just put that in the chat and we'll talk about how to do that. So thanks to everybody for joining. If the current students would just hang out for a couple minutes for the live call to just answer any questions. And then faculty, we're going to let you get back to your artwork and your design and your day and give everybody a big wave goodbye.
Bye.
Everyone, hope to see you in the fall.
Yes, hope so. Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.